Welcome to How You Livin', a transformative podcast featuring best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and minister, Dr. Rick Rigsby. And now, Dr. Rick.
Hello, friends. Thanks so much for listening. In this episode, we continue our discussion on genuine leadership. I define a genuine leader as one who displays influential behavior in a manner that motivates and inspires others to improve their lives. Disingenuine leadership, on the other hand, is impressionistic leadership. It's based on how we present. You see, in this day and age, presentation is very important. It's highly valued. But if your leadership centers on how you present yourself, your reach is limited. Genuine leaders expand beyond the parameters of glowing rhetoric and impressive dress. They even move beyond status, education, and even resume. Status is important. Education is important. Resume is important. But those aren't the only building blocks that build influence. I'm talking about being the best leader we can possibly be. So, I want you to think about this. What if I were to tell you that the person who influenced me most in leadership had very low status, had not the most glowing resume, and only made it to the third grade? Who was that man? I'm so glad you asked. The most influential man I ever met in my life was a third grade dropout. My father. Highest position he ever held? A line cook at a university. He was largely unknown outside of his hometown of Huntsville, Texas, or his adopted town of Vallejo, California. Yet, the words of this simple man are impacting people all over the world. How do you explain the irony of this? One simple word: influence. I can remember my father saying, "Son, if you don't have influence, all you represent is a suit, just a suit of clothes, nothing more." You see, growing our influence, I learned from an early age, growing our influence, it's the foundation for effective leadership. My father, Roger Marion Rigsby, the wisest man I ever met in my life, taught me that. And I'll be very honest with you, it went over my head when I was a kid. I didn't think he was very smart at all. I heard those lessons. Son, don't judge people. You'd rather be an hour early than a minute late. How you do anything is how you do everything. Be kind. Be a servant. It's never wrong to do the right thing. Son, if you're going to do a job, do it the right way. I heard these lessons, but I didn't get it. I really didn't understand them. I mean, I'm a kid. It's the 60s. All I wanted to do was ride my Stingray bicycle with the banana seat. All I wanted to do was listen to AM radio on my transistor radio with my earpiece attached. I wanted to watch my favorite programs like Gilligan's Island and the Three Stooges and Leave It to Beaver. But something interesting happens, doesn't it, friends? We get older. We have some life experiences. We have some triumphs, but we also have some setbacks, some pains, devastation, despair. And you begin to realize that your parents weren't nearly as dumb as you thought they were. You know what? I tell you, friends, that at age 69, just rehearsing the lessons that I learned from a godly mother, a genius, and rehearsing the lessons I learned from a wise father, they bring tears to my eyes today. And it's the foundation on which I do everything. And that foundation is built based on growing my influence every single day. I think author John Maxwell said it best. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's why I believe that influence is the trademark of leadership. Our level of influence will determine the power of our impact. No influence, no impact. On the other hand, Impressionistic leadership, what we see in the 21st century, it fits well into a shallow, superficial culture where we want our leaders to entertain us and be our pals and be our buddies. There's nothing wrong with being friendly, but that's not your first responsibility. Your first responsibility is to inspire. It's really to motivate. It's to encourage. It's to empower. And you do that by growing your influence every single day. I think it's really important to state this as often as I can. We live in a culture where we'd rather look good than be good. That's not genuine leadership. It's not authentic leadership. It's not impactful leadership. We may look good and sound presentable, but how many people are actually inspired to go to the next level? This is why it's important to construct a solid, common sense approach to the kind of leadership that makes a difference. So, over the last several episodes of this podcast, we've been discussing some of the basic building blocks, if you will, that construct the foundation for genuine leadership. Bricks are building blocks that are essential to growing influence. They include growing every day, making a commitment to grow every single day. If you're not growing, you're retarding. You're not remaining at the same level. If you're not growing, you're going backwards. Be a lifelong learner. Every single day, make a choice to grow. It's as simple as reading something, taking 5 minutes to read something. Or how about this? How about taking 5 minutes to tune out the world and just think? Just go on a walk and think through a problem. 5 minutes. You know, when I was a college professor, it blew me away how little time students made reserved to think, because it's all about going. It's all about doing. It's not about being still. It's not about contemplation and reflection. And I get that. They're 18 to 22 for the most part. But that's no excuse, friends. We live in a world where we react. We don't tend to think. We react and then we respond. Rarely do we reflect and contemplate. Just take 5 minutes today and read something. Learn something in a conversation. Take 5 minutes and think about something and ponder that thing throughout the day. I'm talking about growing by using the mundane episodes of life every single day to grow. Remember, if we're not growing, we're not remaining stagnant, we're actually going backwards. Listen to this, friends. I just read a study that had something rather startling as its conclusion. The study noted that most people tend to stop growing after their formal education has concluded. Whether it's high school or college, they stop growing. And what fascinated me were the reasons why. They're too busy, they don't like learning, and they feel like they've learned everything. 2 quotes from the master teacher, John Wooden, who taught lessons in the guise of a basketball coach at UCLA, a very successful basketball coach who won 10 national championships, 7 in a row. With regard to the subject of learning and being a lifelong learner, Wooden offers these 2 comments. Number 1, live today as though you're going to die tomorrow. Learn today as though you're going to live forever. And number 2, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. Good wisdom. Friends, I want to tell you something. I love being around people who are committed to learning every single day. Conversely, I don't have a high tolerance for the kind of folks that have been around the world 3 times and talked to everybody twice and they know everything. You see, I believe there's a positive correlation between a leader who is resistant to growing and a leader who is perceived as ineffective and uninspiring. You see, these folks that are just resistant to growing, they tend to function out of insecurity, always threatened by other people, threatened by new ideas. Therefore, innovation is pretty low. They have this know-it-all attitude that kind of pushes an agenda to just get the job done and get it done the way we've always got it done, and I don't want to entertain any other ideas. And these kinds of leaders, they have one motivation: making sure they're the ones in the spotlight, that get the credit, that receive the glory. These are the kinds of leaders, these impressionistic kinds of leaders, place individualism over team greatness. And as a result, the entire team suffers because the motive is misplaced. I love the words of Charlie Munger. You remember Charlie Munger. He was an associate to Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway. Munger once said, "Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the results." A leader who is addicted to response, believing her own press, is dangerously ineffective and alarmingly uninspiring. The second building block to genuine leadership: preparation. I graduated from the Preparation Leadership Academy taught by my father, a third-grade dropout. He simply taught us that if we don't prepare, we're planning to fail. Every single day, we had to prepare. Now, I want you to think about something. What was his training? He had to be at work at 5 o'clock in the morning. He had the breakfast and lunch shift at California Maritime Academy. He was one of several cooks in the commissary. Every single day, Monday through Friday, for several decades, my father had to participate in a team environment to prepare breakfast and lunch. Some of the most enjoyable moments of my life were going to work with my dad. Me and my brother would go to work when we were out of school, say during the summer or some other time during the year. And we would have odd jobs. I remember one of my odd jobs was peeling the potatoes. I don't know if you've ever seen a 10-pound or 50-pound or several pound bag of potatoes, but it is humongous and overwhelming. And my job was to peel the potatoes and to do it the right way. And I can remember if it wasn't done the right way, my father would not tolerate it. He would not accept it. Now you just take that small unit and just multiply that by 100. And that's what my father did every day, Monday through Friday, for month after month, year after year, his entire career at California Maritime Academy. He was always preparing. Always preparing. In an earlier episode, I told the story that I just love to tell about how the cadets at California Maritime Academy are required to go on a cruise to get them sea ready to go into the maritime business. And back when I was growing up, the cruise was January to March annually. January. But my father would start packing in December. He did not have to take a month to pack, but he was stressing to us the need to prepare. He would take one Samsonite suitcase. In the 60s and 70s, no wheels, one Samsonite suitcase, and what they used to call a medicine bag, overnight kit these days. It didn't take him a month, but he intentionally used that time to purposely prepare for every scenario that he could imagine, not just at sea, but in ports of call, weather conditions, everything that he could imagine. I can hear him now. Son, you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Son, if you don't plan and prepare, you're depending on luck. I want to say that again. Son, if you don't plan and prepare, you're depending on luck. Friends, my father's Leadership Academy did not include a module on luck, but preparation, the second building block to growing effective leadership. Great people do things that other people don't. Great leaders do things that other people won't. The third building block that establishes the foundation for genuine leadership is disrupting your thinking. My father would disrupt his thinking every single day. It was the way that he taught himself to remain sharp, to not get stuck in a rut. I never heard my father use the word entropy, but what he was really doing was he was trying to decrease entropy every single day. What is entropy? I'm so glad you asked. It's the second law of thermodynamics that suggests that anything made up of a physical matter is in the process of decay and eventual chaos. My father did not want anything to do with entropy, anything to do with stagnation, anything to do with being stuck. So I watched him without even understanding the depth of his wisdom. I watched my father constantly challenge his thinking, which led to changing routines, patterns, and habits. Unbelievable. The results? My father, I never remember him being stuck. I never remember him being in a rut, and he was effectively efficient. I never saw him waste time. Never. Everything was purposeful. Everything was intentional. One other thing, he was always about the business of doing himself. He never handed off things. He always was about the business of doing what he believed he should do, what he said he would do. It taught me this, and I mean, he said it to me over and over. Son, don't expect other people to do for you what you can do for yourself. Here's the bottom line. My father disrupted his thinking in a way that kept him from getting stuck. It kept him staying on the edge, staying sharp. It even years later would help motivate health changes in my own life as I learned the connection between disrupting my thinking and getting out of ruts that were unhealthy. My father challenged himself every single day. He challenged himself every single opportunity that he had to change up his routine, even if it meant being uncomfortable. Interesting. Even if it meant doing hard. I get lessons like this from that. Son, learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Son, do hard better. Here's the bottom line. Authentic leaders are not afraid to disrupt their own thinking. It's not about comfortable patterns or well-manicured routines or even cherished rituals and traditions. Leadership is about growing every single day. Growth includes challenging your thinking at a basic, fundamental level to keep you out of ruts, to keep you from getting stuck, to keep your mind sharp, to keep your ideas flowing, to keep innovation at the forefront of your mind. And let me conclude, because we're running out of time, with the fourth building block that we'll have to continue later, but let me at least introduce this. The fourth building block that establishes the foundation for genuine leadership, righteous living. Oh, baby. Simply stated, living the right way. Nothing grows your influence like living the right way every day. Aristotle said it like this: you are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. Isn't that interesting? In a shallow, superficial culture, we make excellence an act, a one-night stand. But Aristotle said, no, not correct. You are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. My father said it like this: son, how you do anything is how you do everything. Living right, living by doing the right thing all the time, grows your influence exponentially. Righteous living develops our competence, develops our skill sets, reinforces good habits, builds greater character and integrity. Living the right way is powerful, profound, life-changing. In fact, I'd like to devote an entire episode to living the right way. So let's pick it up right there the next time we're together, as I leave you with this nugget from a third grade dropout. Remember this, chew on this throughout the day. How you do anything is how you do everything. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Until we meet again, this is Dr. Rick, asking the most important question I can ask: how you living?
Are you ready to make an impact in your world right now? Do you want to stop existing and start living your best life right now? Dr. Rick wants to give you the first chapter of his best-selling book, Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout, absolutely free. Just go to www.rickrigsby.com/free gift to get the print or audiobook right now.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.